Father, it's me, Michael. I should be dead, but I'm not. At least not on the outside. Oh, wicked self-burn! Greetings, gamers, and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm your host, Carl Monroe, and yes, I got this shirt specifically for FNAF videos. I won't wear it in any other content, and yes, it's a children's shirt, because any self-respecting adult that doesn't talk about FNAF on the internet for a job wouldn't wear this. With the release of the next Fazbear Frights book, we figured it was a good time to talk about one of the most elusive and confusing characters to ever grace the FNAF series. What do we know about him, and is anything really certain? Well, that's what we're trying to solve with today's list of the top 10 scary FNAF Michael Afton facts. Michael Afton being the son of William Afton, the purple guy, the man behind the slaughter. But did his son take over the family business? Let's see. Be sure you hit like and subscribe if you love the FNAF series, and we will roll the intro. In a 10 soap opera. One fun fact about Michael Afton, actually I don't know if this is fun or if we should actually be afraid, is that he loves the soap opera The Immortal and the Restless, a vampire parody of The Young and the Restless, and I'm assuming Twilight maybe, because of the vampires. I don't actually know where Scott stands on the franchise. Anyway, I'm not sure if we should be amused by his constant watching of the show or afraid, since him watching that show keeps his attention so bad that he doesn't hear Ennard come into his house, and he's just able to crawl in front of the TV while Michael just sits there. No running, no surprise, he just sits there watching Immortal and the Restless. People also seem to think that this is alluding to Michael's relationship with William, saying potentially that the child isn't his. I mean, that is a possibility, but what if it's true, and when William found out he killed the mother, hence why she isn't around? But that doesn't really make any sense, because if he was willing to kill the mother, he wouldn't have kept the kid. Either way, the way Michael gets distracted by a soap opera is scary. Not because it's a soap opera, because he's so distracted he doesn't hear a 7-foot-tall animatronic walking into his house. In a 9 torn identity. Michael, while not going by many names, has had many different identities over the years. While now most of us know who he is, there is a whole section of the community that thinks that Mike is Springtrap. Hell, according to the security logbook, Michael may not even be his real name. Over the years, Michael has gone by Foxy Bro, Crying Child, Purple Guy, Springtrap, and Mike Trap, but they have all been Michael Afton. We don't know why he may not remember his name, and we may not know for certain what's really going on in this series, but I can tell you that 100% he is not Springtrap, okay? Mike Trap is not a thing. Scott Cawthon confirmed it himself in reference to a MatPat theory about FNAF 6, saying to pay attention to his take on the Mike Trap versus Will Trap debate, and Matt did in fact prove to us that Mike Trap is impossible, since when Purple Guy was first introduced in FNAF 2, he had been able to drive since Fredbear's Family Diner, which Mike would 100% not have been old enough to do. Plus, if it was Mike in the Springtrap costume, he wouldn't have been able to set the souls of the other children free like he was doing, because he would have been trapped in the safe room. In an 8 mirror image. We learned from Mike's final monologue in Sister Location that Mike actually looks a lot like his father, saying the animatronics didn't recognize him at first, but then they thought that Mike was William, which explains why the animatronics are coming to kill us in the games and why the toy animatronics come after us in FNAF 2. Because we play as Mike in all those games. Because since now they have William as a killer and they're all looking for him, but instead they find us, his son, Michael Afton, which kind of throws out the whole we aren't his son thing, unless you think about the crying child as the one who isn't the son, but in that case he wouldn't say I'll put you back together, even though he could be someone else who says that, and who knows anymore. Not even MatPat, and we rely on MatPat to get these things right. At least I do. I rely on it. Notice me, senpai. Just comment in all the game theories. Tell him to check out Top 10 Gaming. Love you, MatPat. Don't copyright strike me. And at 7 moral differences. Now, while William and Mike may look alike, that's the only thing they have in common. Genetics aside, these people aren't related in the slightest. If you think about it, these two are the opposites of each other. One is corrupt and kills as a sacred nature, and the other is trying to repent, making up for his father's crimes as well as his own wrongdoings. We don't know why William started killing, it's all just speculation, but we know why Mike began hunting down the spirits of the children and started setting them free, to make up for his father's mistakes and to let his brother have the peace he deserves. The two characters juxtapose each other, and this is even more reinforced when you remember that they did look exactly alike, so much so that the animatronics actively try to enact revenge on Mike, thinking that he's William. Even though they look identical, they are on the opposite sides of the spectrum of human decency, and while yes, Mike started off bullying his younger brother, once he got his brother killed, that's when he found his way. It's sad, but at least they can rest now. And at 6, he can't die. It's established in Sister Location that Mike isn't able to die via any normal means. When he got scooped and injected with Remnant, as explained via the Remnant reservoir that the scooper has, and thanks to Baby telling him he won't die after Ennard escapes his now rotting body. However, even though he is rotting, smelling disgusting, and becoming more ghastly every day, he's still kicking. Or at least he was, until Pizzeria Simulator. Now, how is this? Well, it's thanks to the Remnant in his body. The Remnant that he was injected with in Sister Location's final moments actually saved his life. His body was dead, but his soul was still preserved, infusing him with a form of soul metal powered by agony that can only be destroyed with fire, or overheating. And you may be thinking, if he was injected with Remnant, doesn't that make his body possessed by a soul that isn't his? And while this would be true for anyone else, scooping would be incredibly painful and cause an intense amount of agonizing pain. But you also need to remember, he's with his dead family. He just found out that his sister possessed the circus baby animatronic, and his brother, probably fairly recently, just got killed by the Springlock failure. So he's dealing with a whole lot, to say the least, and to say that he's in agony is probably an understatement. So it's very possible that he infused his soul with the Remnant injected and just took control. That's not that far out there when it comes to this series. Halfway through and in number 5, Burned. However, despite his ultimate soul power, he eventually does die during the fire in FNAF 6, also known as Pizzeria Simulator, where Henry gives his final monologue to close out the first 6 games, or the Purple Guy saga, or at least we thought. We then see him return in the form of Glitch Trap in FNAF VR, but that's a whole other video. And literally, we did a top 10 scary Glitch Trap facts, so you should go check that out too. After this, of course. But as I described my last number, the only way he could die was through burning, which Henry makes sure of when he burns the joint to the ground with William, Baby, aka Elizabeth, Molten Freddy, aka Ennard, Lefty, containing the puppet, aka Charlotte, Henry's daughter, and you playing as Mike inside. The only question I have about this is, did we know we were gonna burn down? Obviously, we wouldn't be talking about it outright with Henry since, you know, arson is illegal, and if anyone were to stumble upon their operation, special obligations under paragraph 4 sounds better than you found an animatronic we need to burn. Especially when you take into account that these animatronics are possessed and have minds of their own. They don't want to be destroyed. So it would make sense as to why they'd keep it secret, but it could be Henry keeping secrets from us as well. I personally always thought that we knew that we were gonna burn and that we had just accepted it because we'd get to see our family again and they'd be put to rest. Also because, you know, we're a walking hunk of rotting flesh that was used as a meat suit for a robotic endoskeleton, and I don't think there's a therapy for that. In at 4, Scooped. We all know that Mike got scooped at the end of Sister Location, if you got the right ending. However, what we probably didn't know, at least until FNAF 6, is how the scooper worked. The scooper has 4 different parts to it. The excavating arm, which is the worst name for a scooper imaginable, the remnant injector that leaves a trace line of remnant on the interior of the subject, the arm, base, and balance, and the remnant reservoir. And this blueprint is also where we learn that negating the effects of remnant requires heat. In the notes it says that when heated, the metal has no observable motion, that the heated tank should be kept at a sustaining temperature that makes the metal malleable, but nothing more liquid than that, because overheating might neutralize the effects permanently, as well as using the scooper too much. As the notes on the injector says, overusage/overexposure negates the effects. If Mike had scooped Ennard out of him, he might have just been able to die instead of living in agony. Getting close to the end in number 3, he killed his brother. This is a fairly obvious thing, but this is also one of the most horrifying things imaginable. I wouldn't be able to handle directly being the cause of a family member's death. If I was Mike and I had put my brother into the jaws of a creature he was so terrified of that he started crying so much the jaws closed and crushed his skull, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I wouldn't have been okay ever again, okay? Just the thought of this makes me want to hug my sister. Sure, her and I fight and yeah, I pick on her, but there's no way that I would have forced her into a terrifying situation unless it was for YouTube content and she was willing. But by no means would I throw her into the mouth of anything. I was going to make a joke and say aside from a lion, but I can't even joke about that. That sucks. In at 2, Purple Guy. Remember how I mentioned earlier that people thought Mike was the killer? Well, that's because of Scott's old tricks. In the final scenes of Sister Location, where we see Mike walking along after his Ennard injection, we see him slowly get more purple and start to collapse, until eventually he is pure purple and so broken that Ennard has to evacuate faster than your Tinder date. He stood up after Baby said multiple times that he won't die, but this has caused a whole bunch of people to believe that he is actually the Purple Guy, that he is the killer. This is simply not the case. Yes, there are 2 purple guys, but but only one of them is actually physically purple, that being Mike. Mike is actually purple, even though being green would make more sense because that's what everything rotten is colored, but whatever, Scott. William is the one and only purple guy, but he is purple because that's meant to represent a shadow in minigames that have a black background. And in Atari-style games, purple was used to indicate shadows because in a way it's more realistic in some cases. It's hard to explain. They aren't the same person, I promise. Okay, as I said earlier, Scott confirmed it himself. Finally, in at number 1, he's the brother. Hey, brother. Now I've been talking this whole time about how Michael is the big brother, and some of you may be confused. At first we thought he was the brother until the survival logbook gave us questions like, does he still talk to you, in reference to psychic friend Fredbear, and lines like the party was for you. Since the crying child's party is where he ended up dying, we thought that Mike was actually the crying child, and the promise of I will put you back together came from William, who literally put him back together as a robot. But now we're back to his brother. Why? Actually, it's because of the latest Fazbear Frights book and the similarities between the main character of Paul from one of the stories and Foxy Bro, as MatPat called him. If you haven't watched that theory, I highly suggest you do. Matt will explain it better than I can in this short amount of time because the script is already really damn long. But basically, the similarities prove that Mike is actually the gray-shirted big brother. But honestly, I think that the two kids may be the same person, but that's something I'll have to discuss on my own stuff. There we have it, friends, the top 10 scary FNAF Michael Afton facts. Which facts surprised you, if any, and is there anything I should include in a part 2? Be sure you let me know down below, and remember that this series is constantly changing, so what's true now may change down the line, so just chill out in the comments. On your way down to Rage, be sure you hit like and subscribe if you love FNAF, and ring that bell to join the clan and level up. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.